Commissioner Witt,
Here.
City Engineer Morrow,
Here.
Here.
City Engineer Morrow,
Here.
Assistant City Engineer Meinrich,
Here.
and Highway Superintendent Schneider.
Here.
Let the record show Alderman Nelson, Commissioner Speck, and Commissioner Skoronsky will not be here this evening.
No, not ready.
So we'll do a quick pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we're gonna go ahead and take a little out of sequence tonight, and we're gonna go ahead and start with 5A, which is the autistic child sign request. I told you we would do that. I told Glenn we would take it first, and we are going to do that. So Miss Roberts, is that right? Yes. Please
It's live. What name and address for the record?
name and address for the record.
Crystal Roberts, and it's 6810 West Kathleen Court, Apartment 2.
I think, at least from my position, you pretty much didn't have a problem with doing something with this, but there's one thing that kind of caught our attention. We wanted to make sure on the address, because there was an address mix-up. I'm gonna move this.
Because if for some reason it...
I realized my mic wasn't on.
Oh, that's okay.
So that'll make it a little bit better and everybody can hear. I realized that the address was, we wanted just to verify the address. You've done that. The second thing is, we are working on a policy for these types of warning signs. And one of the things in that policy that we're actually going to be discussing later tonight is when we take these under advisement, we would like to have a idea of a time frame. We don't want these things road. You may have moved on or whatever. We have a number of these types of signs, so we're going to incorporate a time frame associated with these types of signs if we approve them. So my only question for you from my perspective, and then we can go on to the other members of the board, is the one that kind of had in my mind was like 5 to 6 years in this particular case. He's 4. We're talking maybe till 9 to 10, and you could always come back at that time, but it gives us a reference for that to occur, and I was asking your opinion about that.
I think it's perfect. He's not going to start school until 6. He's going to stay in the WEEP program because K4 in Franklin up the my older son goes there. No touch. But we're no touch.
It's okay.
We're more comfortable with not sending him because he is nonverbal, and I don't want the 5-year-old to feel like he has to be the parent. So
Absolutely.
the next 4 years is perfectly fine because at 6 he should be able to understand boundaries, and even if he's not speaking, he can at least. He's not stupid, but he's very fast.
Is there any questions from the board members, or Glenn, do you have any comments?
I believe last time some of the questions were exactly where the sign's needed. And I think maybe on the phone you answered part of that, but you answered that. So for everyone's perspective, here's Drexel, here's 68th Street, Christine Rathke Park is here, and this street is called Kathleen Court. She's here on the corner. I think the concern is this situation here. I don't know that one's necessarily need on Kathleen Court because it's a cul-de-sac, and really everyone entering next and really are your neighbors, and they should understand maybe.
You could hear him.
So I guess the question is the appropriate. We don't want to put up a lot of signs, have extra signs because they lose their effectiveness if there's too many signs.
Correct.
People ignore them. So the question is, do we need one in both directions? I think we definitely need one southbound on 68th Street. But the question is, if northbound, I mean, they're just really just starting to pick up speed because they're coming uphill. But I guess that would be a point of contact too. So maybe one somewhere in this area, 100 feet or so north of 68th or Drexel.
I think even if it's attached to the playground sign, I believe that it would be effective enough, but I know that tree line is our biggest issue.
Okay. So we'll investigate location. Okay.
It's right when you come up the hill.
Okay.
I know I passed it.
So it's like in your-
Kevin will investigate that with the Public Works Department and so forth. And so I think that's, if we decide to put the sign up, we'll rely on their expertise to put it in a good location.
It sounds bi-directional, north and south.
Okay.
So
Other questions?
Good.
Commissioner Wett?
On that property, along 68th Street, the city of Milwaukee and the county has a lot of programs for autistic children. You get programs for autistic children. You get special locks in your windows and your doors, and they'll even, I'm not saying you need it, but I'm saying...
No, we do, because he's already gotten out of the window once.
All right.
We do have locks on our windows, and we have locks on our oven, because he threw a roll of duct tape in there the other day. That was cool. So
And
even if it's a renter's property,
you'd have to investigate that, but they will, there is a program for this. They will do it.
okay.
A friend of mine,
He is
He's
part of
okay. He's okay.
a friend
Children's
of
long-term
mine
services.
has an autistic child, and she's the one that enlightened me, and she lives in Oak Creek. And she, like I say, she got on property. I'm sure you'd have to go through the owner of the property, get his permission, but it can be installed
Okay.
free of charge to the property owner.
Okay. Because
Okay.
they're expensive, and that's our biggest concern. He's fast.
I understand it, the fence, the sign is good, but as a safety,
Mm-hmm.
the fence, I mean, obviously, he's not gonna jump the fence.
Well, you think it, but
Well, I wouldn't know, quite
no,
frankly.
he climbs all the gates in our house and everything. He is
But I mean,
very.
you can go along 68th Street in the back and along Kathleen Court. But I'm just saying, it's something to check into.
Okay.
With the county,
Sure.
because they will pay for it.
Okay. And that's a Milwaukee County issue?
Yes, thank you.
We're almost ready.
Okay,
So it sounds like the board's is entertaining a 4-year before we bother her and ask this. But I guess I would ask if by chance you decide to move next year in 2 years or 3 years, call my office so we can maybe take it down. That'd be great.
Completely
Yeah,
understand.
awesome.
Get over here. Get over here. Completely understandable.
Okay.
okay. So
I know.
what is I guess I would ask for a motion to approve now does this have to go to council?
No. So these
Nope.
are
Nope.
non-regulatory
No, thank you.
signs.
No, thank
So
you.
it doesn't go in the ordinance. I would suggest maybe your motion would be, if you should so desire, to authorize placement of a autistic child sign north and south direction of 68th Street, fire in 2026.
Okay.
Well, if you're looking for a motion, I'll make that motion. I'll second. As Glenn stated it.
I will fill that in, but essentially then the motion is to approve the placement, or to authorize and approve, do I say authorize and approve, or just approve?
I think authorize. Maybe authorize.
Okay, authorize the placement of an autistic child on either side of Kathleen Court as engineering and BPW finds appropriate until that, and this sign will expire in 2026.
Or until Miss Crystal.
Or until Ms.
moves, yeah.
Roberts moves.
Thank you.
Okay, or until Ms.
Moves, yeah.
Roberts moves.
Thank you.
Okay. And that was made by Commissioner Porter, and that was seconded by Commissioner Woznicki. Is there any other discussion on that board? Yes,
I
Tyler.
don't know. Did you say Kathleen Court or did you say on?
I said on 68th
Oh, on
Street,
60. Okay, gotcha.
either side of Kathleen Court.
Gotcha. Okay.
Just tried to get it that way as easily as I could. Okay, all of those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any negatives? Not hearing any negatives, that will pass. Hearing any negatives, that will pass. I will caution you, though, the sign will be helpful, but the first thing we talked about is signs get ignored.
Yes.
So they're not a replacement for parental observation. And I know you are aware.
Yes, very.
But we tell people, I have to tell people if they want to put a stop sign in, you will get ticketed for running that stop sign also.
Oh, yes, completely. I know
So-
we have a bounce house we put up in the front lawn to try and burn off some of this energy. And somebody made a complaint in the neighborhood that it's unattended. I was like, they are 4 and 5. 4!
Yep. So I appreciate your time.
Of course.
I thank you for coming in, and I tried to get you through here as quickly as we can.
Thank you so very much.
Okay.
Are we ready? Can we say bye-bye?
Bye-bye.
All right, let's go. Okay?
Okay. Now we'll go back. You're welcome. Go back and take the public comment period. And if you
You
would
have
like.
minutes also.
What?
You have minutes also.
Reading of the approval.
Oh, thank you so much. I forgot about the minutes. That's what happens when you rush a little bit. You kind of make things a little off. So let's start with the minutes. Is there a motion to approve, or are there any questions or from the board on the minutes from the June the 14th meeting?
Jumping up, I'll make a motion to approve them.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Porter seconded by Commissioner Woznicki to approve as presented. I've read through them. I don't have any comments at myself. Anybody else have any comments? And all of those in favor of that motion, aye?
Aye.
Any negatives? Not hearing any negatives, that motion will pass. Not hearing any negatives, that motion will pass. Now we'll move on to the unfinished, or on to the public comment period, starting here at 6:12. And if you step up to the mic,
Would you mind, I had knee replacement, could I just sit? Would you mind, I had knee replacement, could I just sit?
absolutely, no problem.
Okay. But first of all.
We're going to turn on the speak thing here, and as,
This is one of the issues I'm here tonight for.
okay, we'll take a look at it, but then they'll go to the engineer. Just one quick note, as we talk about, the comment period, you can bring things up, most likely, we can't really act on it since it's not on the board, but it will, come that way then, okay?
All right, my name is, at 6425 South 116th Street in Franklin.
Can you give me that address one more time? I'm trying to type it. I'm not that fast.
6425 South 116th Street.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Well, for the past year and a half, I've been requesting the city of Franklin to come out and take care of a problem on the north end of my culvert. All right. As you will see by the one picture, the algae keeps building up. I end up going out and raking it out once or twice a week. And when we get this really hot, humid weather, it's just, and what's causing it is my neighbor to the north, who had what she calls a natural prairie, all right? The grass grows so tall on her portion of the ditch, and then on the north end of her culvert, it goes and it blocks the culvert. And the biggest problem is, if you take a look at the other picture, the culvert raised over the years. I think 25 years ago or 30 years ago, Franklin came through and redid 116th Street. Well, over time, my culvert actually collapsed. I ended up having it replaced. Debbie Bosevich, my neighbor to the north, was contemplating getting Glen Morrow about getting a new culvert. And I said, I don't know what the cost is going to be. So, but it's crazy. I mean, the algae, it's a health issue. if you're familiar with that. I've talked to the city health department here. They said file a complaint.
Oh, I know where you are.
Matter of fact, you couldn't believe this. Two big, gigantic geese were in the ditch drinking and eating some of that algae. But this problem has to get corrected, because what's happening is the algae builds up, and since water's not flowing, it's going into my culverts up, and since water's not flowing, it's going into my culverts. And then my water coming from my neighbors to the south is not going anywhere. It's backing up because of the algae. And I'm looking for some kind of solution to the problem. I know I talked to Kevin from the DPW, and he has some question about being in the right of way. And I said, Kevin, I've been here since '85. The right of way is 33 feet from the center of the road. The culvert is the city's issue. Granted, if the culvert has to be replaced, that's the homeowner. I was surprised when I had to pay for it. So I'm looking for something from the Board of Public Works. John Nelson and I have talked about this issue a number of times. He's talked to Kevin, and I understand the DPW is short-staffed. Well, I brought this up to Alderman Nelson. I said, wait a minute. They're short-staffed, but yet if you take a look at my area, Alderman Nelson, they put down this black-brown graded fine stone along the road to the grass area. Okay? So if they're short-staffed, they can do that, but they can't come and correct my problem. So is it a City of Franklin issue as far as the algae and the water backing up? That's the question. I think it is. I mean, I've sat on enough committees and commissions and boards in the City of Franklin over 30-plus years. To me, it's a health department, because then it's going to go right back to you people. Here it is. It's a health issue. A few years ago, if you remember, a small little lake in Hills Corners had algae. The DNR came through and said, guess what? No boating, no swimming, no nothing in that little lake. And that's the one just off of Grange, in about 24th, 25th? So something's got to be done, and that's what I'm asking, for something to be done with that soon, because I can't keep going out there and raking this stuff out. And I've always, matter of fact, I even told Alderman Nelson, maybe what I should do, I have these heavy-duty 40-gallon black plastic bags. Maybe I should just bag it up and bring it into the city and dump it. It's crazy. So that's the one issue. Now, a more critical issue is the speeders on 116th Street, south of Belmont. I talked to Chief Oliva about the issue, all right? And I said, there's one thing in Hills Corners, if you're traveling north, they have this solar-powered speed limit sign that flashes what your speed limit is. I said, is it possible to get one on 116th Street? We got kids in our neighborhood, but sometimes they sway off the driveway, and there's cars that are just, they're not doing, maybe 1 or 2 out of 10 are doing 25 or 30. The rest of them are doing 40, 45 miles an hour. And I'll give you a perfect example. A former Franklin DPW worker who happens to be a client of mine, Jerry Zortman, stopped by. We were standing in the driveway, and this car, he said, Bob, what's the speed limit? I said, 25. He said, that car was doing 45 at least. That's the problem. Speeders. That's the problem. Speeders. Now, 2.5 weeks ago, a sergeant from the night shift stopped by. I was outside about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and he says, you're going to get one of those signs. And he says, plus you also gave us permission to park an unmarked squad or a motorcycle in your driveway. I said, anything would help. And I'll give you a prime example. It's not kids, it's adults. A couple weeks ago, I'm cutting my grass, okay? I'm in my ditch area. This van, a Dodge Caravan or whatever, come peeling off of Belmar, coming down, and I went like this. You know what it was? It was a woman. She whipped me the finger, and she had 2 kids in the car.
But that's what happens. Something seriously is going to happen if the speeding continues. Yet the speeders aren't on Hales Corners on 160. You can go to any household on 116th Street and they'll tell you it's crazy. You're taking a chance even pulling out of your driveway. So I'd like to see that sign put up. Matter of fact, another client of mine, lieutenant of the sheriff's department, suggested, Bob, here's what you should do. You have an old hairdryer. I says, when I used to have hair, yeah. He says, paint it black, cut off the cord, and sit down at the end of your driveway. They'll think it's a radar gun.
It works, actually.
It wouldn't work. And then even last year, I questioned Judge Clements, who I've known since 1980, because I also requested a speed limit sign off of Woods coming north on 116th Street. Mr. Morrow said no. And I said, well, there is one as you come in from Hales Corners around that curve. There's a speed limit sign and a caution children sign. But when the bushes from that summer, you really don't see it. I'd like to see one going from the north also off of Woods. So when I talked to Judge Clements, and I said, now, what if someone is traveling north on 116th Street and they get a ticket for speeding? And yet there's no sign posting. He says, that's all they have to do is come into court and I dismiss the ticket because there's nothing out there saying what the speed limit is supposed to be. Yet the comment I got from Mr. Morrow back then was they should know what the speed limit is. No, people don't. I mean, 25 is doing 40, 45, and again, it's adults, it's not kids.
Okay.
And that's,
So what we can do is,
well, here, I'm going to interrupt you. The chief said the approval for putting up the sign is in his hands. The speed limit sign.
the speed limit sign,
The speed limit sign.
the speed limit sign may be, and I'm not going to, we don't normally put signs, speed limit signs. There is traffic code as to where to put those signs. And so and codes very precisely. I know that because he keeps telling us where, we are not supposed to do. But what I can tell you is that if you allow it to come back to us, and Glenn, maybe
I can put together a short memo next meeting to address both these issues. Next meeting to address both these issues.
we can, but one of the, we can address, like, for instance, making sure that Kevin and his crew do clean up the roadway in terms of the signs, if the sign is visible, and that type of thing. We can ask for those types of things.
Well, Alderman
And-
Nelson did tell me that solar power speed limit sign, there are other ones in the city of Franklin. So, and since 116th Street is supposed to be, it's a thoroughfare, really.
Yeah.
It's a
So
thoroughfare.
let's and then maybe we can request it, to get a traffic count, one of the counters out there, Glenn, and just see because what we need is the data. So if we put a traffic counter out there, we'll be able to get some idea of what type of traffic count is going over, what is the mean traffic speed, what's the high, what's the low. We will get that type of information. So then you have data in front of you. What I can tell you is is two things. We find that enforcement is the most important thing. And so most likely our first thing will be what you've already done, which is go to the police department and request for enforcement. Okay? Well, I'm just telling you that's the thing that we do first. Okay? I
don't want to interrupt you, Mr. Commissioner Webster.
So,
My son is a police chief in another community, okay? Franklin is in dire need of additional police officers. They can't plant somebody there 24/7.
no, but if there are, between the data that we would collect and your own observations, if we can come up with 1 hour, 2 hour windows on which days, what time, what direction, north and south we're talking about, we can focus the police so that they don't have to sit there 24/7, but we can focus the police so that they don't have to sit there 24/7, but they can go sit there for that hour and maybe do some effectiveness with our taxpayer dollars.
Nope.
So that's, those are the types of things that can help us.
Well, the time frame, like I told
So-
Chief Oliva and the sergeant that stopped over, it's worse till 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the
Okay,
afternoon.
so that's information, and hopefully the data will somewhat give us confirmation of that. And so the secondary question on the drainage and the growth in the ditch, that is a responsibility of the right-of-way, which I'm not going to argue that. I'll let them tell us which way it is, but we'll bring these up onto our board next month
See,
and address them then. How
And I
does-
know
okay.
last year, my neighbor across the street had a new culvert pipe put in. And matter of fact, my former client, Jerry Zortman, was out there with the other crew. And Kevin was there, and he saw what I was experiencing last year, and he saw what I have to live with to the north with her property. She's affectionately known in the neighborhood as the Swamp Lady. Okay? If you ever want to take a drive-by, just please, okay? If you ever want to take a drive-by, just please do. Matter
Okay.
of fact, Dean, who owns that jewelry center, I stopped to talk to him, and he says, "You live next door to that ugly house?
You're on the
The house
record.
is nice, but the property is terrible."
Yeah.
So-
Well, I'm not going to get into, the,
I mean, she's a
These
nice
types
lady.
of statements,
I
so-
just started patching up my ways with her,
that's good.
talking, but, the problem with that algae is just, it's horrendous. And as much as I've threatened to bag that stuff and bring it to City Hall, where would I put it? I would dump it. I wouldn't leave it in a bag.
Well, I appreciate that you came in, and the board has heard you, and we're going to go ahead and ask Glenn to go ahead and put something together for our next board meeting, which is second Tuesday of the month, and
Okay.
let's see where we go from there.
All right,
Okay.
appreciate it.
All right, go from there.
All right,
Okay.
appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Where'd you go on your vacation?
So
Israel.
then
Greece.
we're going to go on to the
Thank you very
warning
much.
sign. Thank you, sir. The warning sign policy, new business item B. I think, Glenn, that you took it back with some comments from us, and I kind of read through it again. I don't have any questions or issues myself on it. I don't know if any of the other members, do you have anything you want to bring up?
So, like you said, I took your comments last time. I'm not going to reread everything. I forwarded them. I think, I forget all the changes I made. I probably should have done a markup. But the big thing I did, I added some sections at the end. And I reorganized them a little bit. So in section 7 is the primary where the changes happened. I believe last month 7 is the primary where the changes happened. I believe last month we had child crossing signs, but they weren't first. So I put that first on the list. Those tend to be the ones most, probably will, I don't want to say the most controversial, but those will be the ones that people will notice when we start taking those down. I just wanted to put that up front. Plus, it's a little bit unique. It's just that's there's enough studies out there, and we really can't warrant them unless you were to find the odd situation where it needs to be. But we've been told by several agencies to take them down. So then I follow that up with the signs that probably generally warrant. So there's animal crossing signs. I think that we discussed that last month, and special needs persons. So as earlier tonight we discussed the autistic child. This could also be a deaf, blind person, etc. I should say et al. Because that means there are more things. We talked about other crossing signs. So these are signs we occasionally get requests for: trail crossings, pedestrian crossings, snowmobile crossings, and so forth. And then hidden road features. So, block. These are probably less prevalent as far as requested, but I could imagine someone requesting these. And then flashing beacons. That was just 2 minutes ago. Someone asked for a speed limit flashing lights. So that would be an issue here. Other warning signs as reach also. So again. So just as a reminder, There are two categories of warning signs. One's are city-initiated warning signs, so we don't really need to come. If we think it's in good judgment, engineering judgment to do that, we can put that up. We're not going to come ask you, and we put up a warning sign. But then really the purpose of this policy is the public-initiated warning signs. And so as a matter of course, when someone asks for a warning sign, we're going to bring it here and get official permission. It'll be at your discretion, we won't have to take all these to common council, but at your discretion, we won't have to take all these to common council. But I will take the policy to common council just so that they see what the policy is and that they're okay with you having that authority.
Okay.
Any questions that we can talk about?
There is actually one that I noticed when I read through it, and you was in 7.02 with the animal crossing signs, I believe. Number 2, it says the animal should have adequate mass to cause damage or injury to the driver. And I'm wondering if that's a little limited because of passengers in the vehicle? Because of passengers in the vehicle?
Okay, so
That would be the
we'll
only
change
comment I
driver
have.
to passengers.
And passengers.
Or occupants,
Or occupants of the vehicle, or however you want to write it.
does that cover all?
Yeah,
Okay.
because, yeah.
Okay, no, that's good.
Did anybody else catch any other questions that you had as you looked at this? That was the only one that actually caught my attention.
If everything else looks good, I'm going to take this to common council recommendation from the Board of Public Works to adopt it.
So what we would be looking for is a motion to recommend the policy, the warning sign policy, to be adopted by the common council. That's it, right?
Yes.
A motion to recommend to council to approve the policy.
And you might be specific to mention the name of the policy.
Yeah, I'll specifically put it in here.
Okay.
Commissioner Witt has made that motion.
I'll second it.
Commissioner Porter has seconded that motion. Is there any other discussion? Not, yes, Tyler?
I'll give them to you. There's just a few minor
Technical
wording or
cleanups?
things
Okay.
like, yeah, technical changes, so.
Okay, okay. If there are some technical changes, you know, we're not English majors, we'll just get them squared away and move forward with those. So the motion, okay, so therefore, yeah, we'll get to that. So then without any other comments, not seeing any, all of those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any negative? Any negatives? Not hearing any negatives, that motion will pass. Okay? And then we'll go to the review of the auction results for the June 2022 sale of DPW vehicles and equipment. We have a page on that, Kevin?
Yep.
That you provided.
Last page there.
The last page, thank you. Go ahead, Kevin.
This is just when house cleaning on a lot of things. There was some bigger items. We had an old skid steer we got done with. We had an enclosed trailer, and we had a John Deere small garden tractor. Those are the big items. And it brought in a total of Those are the big items. And it brought in a total of $24,583. Like I say, a lot of this was house cleaning.
Just for the, excuse me, sorry. Just trying to get remembering how this auction site works. The bid price is the bid price for the item, and then whatever fees are paid to the auction house are paid on top of that by the buyer. Is that correct?
It's a percentage of the sales.
It's a percent.
It's a percentage of the sales.
It's a percentage of the sale itself. So,
Yes.
So
If
we're,
it's 10,000, it's X percent of that 10,000. I believe there's a chart on there. Yeah.
yeah, that's, I'm just trying to make sure I clarify. I'm not
Yep.
complaining about it, I'm just making sure I understand.
On the very back of that page, it's each of the
Yep,
same-
total commission is shown on the last page. Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yeah, yeah, you see actually, everything added up to 27,410. The auction fee was 2826, so we're going to net
Just
24.
some crazy number like 11% or something.
It varies by the price. It can go from 13 down to 8%. Down to 8%. The fee.
Okay, the fee can, okay.
The more expensive of an item, the less the percentage.
Yep, I see it there now, okay. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure you're aware.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
We've had excellent success with the auction associates.
Well, you know, the items that we're talking about are frankly, you know, past their use for our department, and they aren't worth anything unless you sell them.
Right.
So it's a proper use of the service. So I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, we definitely get our useful life out of everything.
Yep. So I'm going to make this as a informational only. There's
Yes.
nothing we have to approve.
Right, because I came to the board actually in the beginning.
Right, I remember.
Request
Yep.
Permission to sell.
Yep. So that's cool. Okay. So that's cool. Okay.
Right.
Thank you. Now we'll move on. So our next meeting would be the August the 9th. I'm just going to double check my calendar to verify that, of course, I could hit the right stupid button. PM, that's the next Tuesday. And then currently the time is 6:36. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I second it.
Commissioner Porter, seconded by Commissioner Witt. All of those in agreement? Aye.